The trick with this part is making sure that you do this in a fast, twisting, jerking motion so that you can get the transmission out easily. And you gotta like really twist with your back and don't lift it all with your legs, and then that way you'll protect yourself. Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Guasti YouTube channel. We're going to head down to Southern Maryland Transmission, and we are going to go pick up the Th400 from Mike. See if Mr. Bruce is ready. Might be working on something. It's like, hold on. Got the trans. We're gonna get some trans fluid now. Trans fluid's on the way from being shipped out, so it should be here tomorrow or maybe the next day, but we'll get at least the transmission thrown in the car today and then fill it up. I was kind of hoping to get to a cruise today, but you know, no trans fluid yet, so we'll once we get the trans fluid, we'll be able to get the car back on the road. But I mean, the important thing is that we're going to be ready for streetcar takeover. That's what's most important, not necessarily making it for a car cruise. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? Get it together. We'll get the transmission thrown in the car today, maybe. Depends on how I feel. We'll catch you guys back at the house. We're back here at the house. Mr. Mike was pretty busy today. I didn't want to like hang around and distract him because he is a working man getting job done. I did talk about trans fluid earlier. I guess there's an issue with shipping or whatever. They thought that they had more trans fluid than they actually did. They didn't have enough. So we're waiting probably until, it's going to be till like next week, I think, when we get some trans fluid for this thing. So it'll probably be a while where it's not running. But we can still get the transmission thrown in and talk about a couple other things. First thing I want to talk about is the last video that I made. I want to make sure that I'm real with y'all. This money says right here for motion picture use only. This is not legal tender. This is for motion pictures, da 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 da. It wasn't real money. I'm not trying to be something that I'm not throwing, like flexing on everybody, showing everybody how much money I have. It was fake. It was just a funny video that I that I wanted to do, that I thought that people could relate to, because that is honestly how it feels. Whether you're just buying an intake, or if you're buying a turbo kit, or you're building the whole entire car. So I just wanted to make that video to kind of like laugh at that and kind of like laugh at my own pain, sad clown type thing. But what I do have that we do have to talk about is a second GoPro. I traded in the GoPro Hero 3 that I had for a second GoPro Hero 8. GoPro does like a pretty cool trade up deal so you can get rid of your old GoPro and get a new one. So I do now have a second one, so we're not going to be just working with one angle. So now, like today, I'm going to try to do 2 different angles where I'll have one kind of rolling shot of me working on the car from, you know, a watching perspective, and one from like a first person type of perspective. That way, like in the last video, footage was not as good as I was hoping. I have something that will be at least decent that I can clip to. And then also at the track, we can do in-car type stuff, or I don't really want to put a GoPro on the outside of my car in case it falls off. But, you know, something out the window, something out the front window, because my car's slow. We won't have to point anything backwards. We don't gotta worry about that. That's pretty much it. Tonight I'm gonna throw this transmission in here. So we'll get going on that. Like I said, don't have fluid. I did kind of modify this little dealy whopper right here for the trans blanket so that it'll fit right here in the bell housing. The other one didn't have quite enough. It was a little bit too thick to fit in here, but now thick with 3 C's, a little too thick. So that the trans blanket will go on the car. That way we can be as safe as can be. That's a good Mike down at Southern Maryland Transmission. That's kind of like that's what makes a good guy to me, is like, I took my transmission down there for him to build, and he built it and he did a good job and he charged me a fair price. And then he put some notes like, hey, you know, like just in case you didn't know, you know, just a couple of things. One of the things that he said was, you should really have a trans blanket so you can be safe. You wanted to double check and make sure that I had one, or at least had one on the way or something like that. It's not his car. He's not going to be driving it. He's, you know, probably not going to see the transmission for a while again, but he cared enough to make sure that I'm being safe. That's a good type of person. So you got to keep an eye out for those kind of people and treat those kind of people well. So thanks for looking out for my safety. I do have a trans blanket. But we'll get this thing thrown on here and we'll catch up with you in a little bit. Using this earlier. If y'all haven't seen, this is too small of a wheel, but it's the only paddle sand or wheel that I had. If you guys haven't seen the braking on these things, that's money. The braking is money, and this really is not that loud. My wife was upstairs sleeping while I was down here grinding on stuff, and she did not even hear it. Which I'm in an attached garage to the house, and she was sleeping right above me. So that's huge. This thing is super awesome, really quiet. If you're not a Milwaukee Fuel fan, you might not be a Tool fan if you're not a Milwaukee Fuel fan. I've got my fair share of Milwaukee stuff floating around here. First thing that we got to do is we're gonna throw on. It's a 16, I think. 16 sounds right. 16 mil. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Don't want to film this part because this is almost never graceful, getting this big old girl on that, but for the sake of entertainment purposes, or for the sake of entertainment, I'm going to try to put it on there on camera. So enjoy the struggle. 1, 2, 3, clunk, clunk, clunk. That hardly ever happens on the first rotation or two. The crank adapter is up there. You guys see it, right? It's there. I forgot that before. Okay, so I thawed a little. I fed the dogs. Don't mind Buddy's cone and his earring. I got the trans crossmember bolts in. This one's nice and loose because the bell housing's still not made it up yet. But at least now the back end is supported and I can really manhandle this thing a little bit without having to worry about it falling because it is attached to the car. The dogs keep ringing the bell to tell me that they have to go outside to the bathroom. So Mary Kate's at work. So I have to, like, every 6 seconds, Lucy's over there ringing the bell, so I keep having to get up and go over there and let her go to the bathroom. But the transmission's in, semi-quasi, sort of. I had to, like, massage the body a little bit to get the trans blanket to clear. But I'm putting on these last 2 bell housing bolts, gonna torque them down. And to tidy up all of this yucky nonsense right here, because my cousin gave me a hard time about it. Like a lot of pull out. Like a lot. I really don't want to do that measurement again. Converter pull out is for when your trans heats up and you're driving it, whatever, you're gonna get heat in it and the converter's gonna grow, which if it can't grow this way because there's a motor, but it's gonna grow back into the pump. So what you do to compensate for converter growth and high heat is you do pull out. So the converter is all the way seated in the pump right now, so it's all the way back. Now converter pull out is calculated by, you measure this gap all the way forward, or sorry, with the converter all the way back, and you measure the gap right here, and then what you want to do is you want to shim it to where you get something like a 1/4 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch. I don't remember. I always have to look at the spec. But that's how much you want to be pulling the converter out of the pump. But this feels like a lot. It feels more like it should be right here. These are the shims that I had from, when I say shims, they're washers. They're balanced washers. These are the same ones that were in here before, but it feels like it should be only about that much. But there's still tons of pullout left there. This feels like a lot. I think I'm gonna remeasure this and just double check the specs. It's kind of like a down and dirty way to do this. This is a stack of washers right here. The converter is pushed all the way back into the transmission, and right here, it's just in there enough to hold itself in there, but those washers is exactly how much space I have, the clearance between the feet of the converter and the flex plate. So I'm going to take these out. Like I said, it's just enough to hold itself in there by friction. I'm not like cram them in there, because the flex plate does flex. If you try to cram it in there, you'll be able to cram it, but that's not how you calculate it. So you hold on to these washers, and we're going to go micrometer them. Stick this big old chunk of washers in there. All right, 422. Decimal 422. Almost, geez Louise, that's like almost a 1/2 inch, which is 125. I always confuse 125 with a 1/4 of an inch because of this 25, but it's an 1/8 of an inch. And 187 as our high side. Okay, so here's the whole air gap right now without any shims. So let's find out what I had for shims in there. We'll call it 180. Okay, so 180. Public math, here we go. 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 242. Okay, out of tolerance there. We got way too much pull out, which is weird because I didn't change anything. Like I said, it seemed like way too much, and it is. It's quite a bit much, like a tenth too much. Which is what we're going to try to get rid of. We're going to try to get rid of a 1/10 basically and shoot 142 would be right in the middle here. So we had 100.180 of shim before. We're going to try to shoot for 280 of shim. Oh, I was supposed to be keeping that one, you guys. You didn't tell me. I was stacking them all over there. Oh, are you guys even looking? Hello? You guys need to be looking here. Okay, oh my god, the dogs are driving me nuts. We're getting further away somehow. Get rid of that one. Let's try this one. Nope, that's gonna be too skinny. That's a fat one. Come on. Why? I'm gonna call 2000s close enough. This one's 284. 284 to 286. That's within 2,000ths of an inch. I think that's pretty close. We'll call it we'll go for the mean of 285. Just within the tolerance on the small side. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna run these 3 stacks. Now I'm going to stack these washers on these bolts, thread the nut on, and I'm gonna scale them out and make sure that they're pretty close in weight. That way we're not getting any weird crazy vibrations from this. Grams, 51 grams, 55 grams, close enough. Now, I know what you're thinking, and what you're thinking is, Connor, that's a lot of washers. Are you really gonna put those on there? And then, yes, I'm absolutely gonna put all of these washers on there. And they're gonna be very fast streetcar washers. think I've said this like 3 times now. That should be everything. I might not play that I said it 3 times, but I definitely did. Okay, the starter's in. Torque converter bolts are in. The pull-out is in spec. The trans temp is hooked up. The blanket's on. The bell housing bolts are on. The straps are on for the blanket. Don't forget this light, because it does not want to go racing. This light doesn't know about that life. Can we just take a second? Look at this. I'm pretty proud of these welds. Can't really see them. Those came out all right. I'm not that good of a welder, but those came out pretty decent. It's hard to weld to the body of the car. Never mind this little guy. This was just to hold it in there while I was welding it, and then I decided it was gonna stay. Man, it is yucky under here. Oh, gotta fix that someday. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I think that's gonna be it for today's video. I'm filthy. It's not really that bad. I'm pretty dirty. It says sort of dirty. I don't even know. Is there anything on my face? Can't tell. The trans is in. The drive shaft's in. The starter's in. The converter's in, obviously. Converter bolts are tight. I didn't take the... Oh, okay. I got to take the wrench off of the crank. Don't let me forget that. That'd be important. We just got to wait on the trans fluid to get here, and then it'll be ready to drive again. Though I don't know. It's sounding like I'm not going to get the trans fluid until into next week. So probably won't drive the car before Jason gets up here. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I do work next week, so you guys are not gonna hear from me probably. Won't see a video next week. I will be working, but I'm gonna try to get this one out before I go. But that's it, I think. Thanks for watching. Man, I used up almost a whole SD card this time. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next video.